So it seems to me that this process of identifying your core business documents is really a key component here. It's that exercise of separating the wheat from the chaff. But also, I think this is what a lot of companies are reluctant to start because they don't know how to do it or where to begin.
I think there's a holistic, prioritized view around this. Certainly there are the standard back office functions, accounting, HR, things of that nature, and not to say that they're not important and very vital to the business, but again, those have typical patterns of technology, of records management that we tend to see. But again, to your point, identifying those core business operations, what's unique to your organization, what has more regulatory oversight or legal oversight from an external perspective, what is more typically subject to legal holds. For instance, if you're in the technology industry, is it your R&D? What is your key IP and what are those groups, the engineering groups that might create that, and focus on some of those key aspects. If you're in utilities industry, what are some of those big operations, whether it's nuclear operations, electric, gas, whatnot, what are some of those key records that are critical to your business operations and regulatory oversight? And again, identify what those are, where they are, and how long they need to be maintained from a regulatory perspective as well as just a plain business usage perspective.
And once you've gone through the back office, it's actually surprising how much of the corpus of content you have lives in those areas. You, just by going through that initial exercise and looking at the predictable set of records, you've knocked out a lot of your list already. I mean, there definitely is more work involved, especially if you're a very diversified business, if you're in a lot of different kinds of businesses, to drill down and understand what each record looks like in those areas. But you know, the easy part, if you want to call it that, is getting into the core features that are predictable, starting with those well-known record types and regulatory obligations, and then building on that as you dig deeper into the core business.
And again, thinking about implementing a program, once you've identified these core documents that are critical to your business or that need to be retained for some regulatory or other purpose, how does a company go about drawing the line in the sand between what's been created historically and might exist at the company, putting a fence around that in some fashion, and then developing a program on a go-forward basis for the new information?
Well, I think the go-forward aspect is critical, right? You've got to stop the bleeding at some point, draw that line in the sand and say, okay, this is what our program needs to be going forward. This is our state. These are the policies, the procedures, the retention periods. Here's the technology or a technology plan that's going to help enable this, and put that in place. So you sort of stop the bleeding and then go back and look at what exists and frankly approach the remediation aspect of it.
And I understand there's more than one way to put a fence around that historic data.
Absolutely. I mean, when you've identified your records and you've completed your record list, the next step is to figure out how to apply controls to that content. And there are various technology solutions out there, or you can even adopt a manual approach. But the solution, the answer really lies in segregating that data, putting a fence around it in a repository, or finding a way to manage that data in place with technology, or just put enough people against it that you've got individuals who are accountable for the different record types throughout the organization. But the real goal of that exercise is to be able to control that record list and get it separated or separately understood from all of the other content out there, which is not has little value and potentially could be disposed of.